Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so as you can see, there's still a lot of detail work to do, but for the most part, I believe I can clearly say that in the city, we are reasonably complete. So the subway spawns in. There's four of them. Now, so the next step, the trains are in, they go to each station, they stop, they do their thing. So the next thing we need to do is we need to set up an actual timer. So on the train, we'll need to set a number value that counts down, and that is going to be the timer that we're going to use when the train is stopped in each station. Because if we just simply tell the code to wait, what will happen is it may wait, but eventually that wait is going to work against us, and it's going to build up in the code, and then the train is going to start to have issues. Yeah, whoops, the train's so like as you can see, there's a lot of stuff, right? I still need to have the platforms need to be fixed, and all that kind of stuff. So rather than giving a timer in the code, it's better if we have a physical timer that counts down, and then that way when we activate scripts or do things, have the doors open, have the doors closed, play sound, all that stuff can be on the timer, which sticks with the train. So that's basically what the next steps will be. Yeah. So this is the short line. There's only 3 stations on this line. See the other train coming through. There it is. Yeah, so then when the train gets to the end of the line, it despawns, and then it respawns at the beginning, and it just goes over and over and over again. So it's an infinite loop. It's perfect. Now, like I say, I need to put doors, windows, lights. I need to adjust the platforms, it looks like, so players can get on and off the train. And this will be the final stop here. And then what I need to do is turn the subway stations. I need to add bus stations to the surface as well. Because right now it's just a hole in the ground with a stairwell. And we want to make it so that way, you know, there's room for taxis, there's room for buses, maybe a park, I don't know. So we have to think about that, the development of that. So this is the end of the line here. Right, the train needs to chime. It needs to do a bunch of stuff. It didn't even stop. The first run through, it doesn't stop. It just goes through and deletes itself. But I assure you, after that, it is fixed. It's just the way the code is. So to go the other way, we have to go up and around. Holy moly. Right, we need to come around here, and there'll need to be signs and stuff. I know this is tall. Maybe I'll put a false ceiling in here. whatever. It's a subway. We need to put some kind of air stuff in here too. Like I said, there's a lot of detail that isn't in yet that will be added later on. The next step is to start coding. Yeah, there's the subway there. Right. The next step is to start the coding. And then adding a few missions, and then once we have some missions and stuff, then we can go back, focus on detail, expanding the missions, expanding the detail. Right, you can see here the road, it cuts into the road. That needs to be fixed. It'll need to turn and come up this way again. You know, and this kind of stuff needs to be adjusted as well. It's just there. So before we get to finishing that stuff, it matters. It doesn't really matter. We can save what we have so far. The trains was a big one. I wanted to make sure they work. Now that I know they work and I know what we need to do to get them to work, the next thing will be automating the freight train, and I just think it'll be neat. That way you're driving along the map and you can see the trains going back and forth. I think that'll be cool. So, with that, way over here, we have to continue the terrain so we can design the second city. And I mean, for this there really isn't much to this. This is just going to be coast. This is just coast all along here for now. Just coast. We would say it was slate. Whoa, 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 whoa. Right, now I wasn't sure if I wanted the mountains to be... I wanted mountains to be on the backside. Just for like... That looks kind of cool, and then it can just kind of hang out that way. But as far as this goes, let's see, is there a base plate? What base plate is that? So yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of work. Let's establish our height here. That. Okay, so then we just place some nodes. Let's see, we could wrap this around. So if we keep it sharp to the road, we can keep it sharp to the road. Let's see. And then it'll just be a cliff on the backside, basically. Like that. And then here we can do this. We can say 1, 2. All this is going to be tied into the road. And then perhaps at some point, maybe here, I can tie it back in and bring it back around. So let's just deal with the inside of that first off. As you can see, the distance it's massive. It's massive. Oh, it's auto-saving. So a lot of it is... What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? We got to follow the on the inside. We need more, right, than the outside. Otherwise, we'll have gaps here. So I need to go back around the map as well. There's a lot of gaps everywhere to be fixed. But you get the idea. Then we get this cool little sort of looking thing. Like that. That is kind of that. That is kind of that. Let's see where we can get to. Real quickly, and then that'll sort of give an idea of what's next. So now, I mean, a lot of this you'll probably never see because the draw distance for the player, you might not see. You're not going to see a lot of this stuff. So what I might end up doing is I might make a passenger train that'll come through here. It'll come here, and then it might just come across here. Is probably what I'm thinking. So then again, on this side, we're coming down like that. So what I need is more nodes on the bottom, just to give us the road. Alright. Couple more. We'll put in some ocean. Actually, if you get the helicopter, you'll be able to fly over here. So it does matter. It does matter. Alright. And then what we want to do is we want to tie this to the road. Woo. Cool. And now what we have, player comes up and across a bridge, and then they come into this little kind of section here up onto a plateau. And then this is just sort of a plateau which comes across, and this is going to be just mostly agriculture and maybe industry. And then on this side here, especially around here, what we're going to do is we're going to have roads. So initially the ocean is going to come across. And then what I'm going to do is, here, just as an example, We'll take this plug in. Okay, let's just say we want a road. So then what we do is we just wrap a road around like this. Right? I just place the road. Again, this is just an example. And then a sloppy example. Right, but then we can start doing stuff like that. Maybe not that sharp. Stuff like that. And now there won't be any buildings on this side here. But then what I'll do is I'll drag the terrain out. Right? I'll delete some of this terrain in here. Because the nodes can be the nodes. But I can now delete this hill here. I could tie the hill into the road. And then I can extend this hillside over here down into the ocean. And then I could put some buildings across here. It's basically what I was going to do. And then that just gives us just more different areas to drive. So we have the flat areas in the city. There's a lot of infrastructure in the city. Then we have a lot of infrastructure for fast travel in the country, right? We can basically drive circles around the map. And then we're going to have this nice little area over here, you know, and this is going to be mansions and that kind of stuff that just wraps around here. And it's going to be, you have the view of the ocean, bigger houses, that sort of stuff. So that was the plan for this area over here. And like I say, I may extend the rail. I don't think I will. We'll just keep this accessible by truck. So there need to be a truck depot and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then the road can wind, and it can wind this way, and it can wind that way, and it can sort of do whatever, right? So yeah, so that's kind of where we're going. Again, the subway's in. I didn't want to focus totally on that in this video. I did want to show that there is direction. Now, finally, because the train was a hiccup. I shouldn't have started that. I should have waited and put it off, but I'm glad I did it because now it's done. Right? But I should have focused on the train. So anyways, I have this train to do, and then we're gonna tie this in. Let's see here. So this is today's focus and the weekend. Finishing the terrain here. This is going to be filled in here. It's just going to be rocks and another lake. There's going to be a campground in here for the player. And then it's going to be, this is the garbage dump. So we'll need a couple of service roads which come out to here, and that's just the train, whatever. But I think it'd be cool. We can have some service roads and a depot. Yeah, and then this, obviously, the terrain is going to be extended out just past the tracks to here, all the way across, and then it's going to be ocean out here. And then this is just agriculture. Then I just need to plant the fields all around here, and then at the end of the line. So what I'm going to do is this port is going to be extended on this side. So the train is going to come into here. And this port, I'm going to drag out to here. And then I'm going to have an access road, which comes across the ocean. And it's going to come into here. The access road is going to come around here, probably. Yeah. And we'll connect it to here. And what I want to do is I want to have a section here in the port, because we're going to have some like heavy haul missions where you'll need to pick up subway cars and that kind of stuff. And maybe you'll need to haul some stuff here up over the mountains. That's going to be challenging. And we'll need to make deliveries to the city and perhaps some deliveries here. And there's some challenging hills here. Remember, this is almost sea level, and we're way up above sea. We're on a plateau over here. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be neat, right? So we'll pick up stuff and that, and that's what's coming. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much for watching. I know you're wondering, hey, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? And then after that, we'll start with the putting in the vehicles, doing the coding. We'll start with the garbage, we'll start with the towing, and we'll go from there. The subway, obviously. So thank you so much, and I will see you then.